Happy Monday to you. It's the Joel Natale Show. We are live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State, having the crucial conversations that Erie needs. And I want to welcome to our studio here for the first time. Now, he was on Zoom earlier, I guess several years ago now, Josh. It's Josh Kitchen from Remax Real Estate. Josh, you're like a team leader, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about kind of your journey. We're a family show. You're a local Erie County kid, but tell us how you got involved in all of this here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, by the way.
You got it.
So when I was younger, actually, I watched my dad do it my whole life, and inevitably joined the business. Took over as team leader a couple of years ago. Have grown that team, so there's 5 of us now, with an admin as well. So
Wow.
we stay busy. So it's been a positive ride so far, and looking forward to.
Is that kind of a different way to do it from other realtors? Were you doing it as a team and kind of working together?
Yeah,
divide and conquer kind of thing.
Right. I would say it was more popular a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
A little more solo agent action now, but it's been good for us. We can lean on each other a lot. If there's a showing or something one of us can't handle, the other one can jump on it, kind of thing. So I honestly enjoy it, and it seems to be working. Love to keep growing it. So.
All right, so you watched your dad as you were coming up. What was high school or college? I mean, how do you say, okay, these are the tools I need to get into real estate?
Sure.
As a young person, because there's a lot of folks that take this on as a second career, after retirement, right?
Right, and a lot of agents, I think the statistic is 80% of the people who get into it by year 2, they're out of it.
Seriously?
Yeah, so it's a very difficult business.
Yeah.
You got to be, you always got to be personable, social, a relationship is everything in this business, to be honest with you. Take care of people, they take care of you type deal. But yeah, growing up, my dad always had a phone by his ear kind of thing at all times. So, that's part of the job you kind of get used to, but, you get out of it what you put into it, I guess, with any other business. And it does take time too, just like any other business. So stick with it, build relationships, take care of people that take care of you.
Did you take business classes? Or
in college I did, I wouldn't say they really relate to anything
really.
real estate related that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Kind of a school of hard knocks to a certain degree in that regard. But, just stick with it and you'll be all right.
All right, I'm sure you communicate with real estate agents and realtors across the country, right? Every once in a while you run into, go to a conference or whatever. Is Erie that different from everywhere else? Because you always hear that,
No, it's different than, bigger metros. We're usually a step behind in that regard. So similar trends, but usually just slightly behind. But
we don't necessarily have the big highs or the deep lows, right?
Yeah, very stable, very consistent. Erie's a good market to invest in, so it's appreciated. The last couple of years, the appreciation's been crazy since the COVID market, but with any real estate market, but very stable here. I have investment properties in here, so I'm kind of practicing what I preach here. So very stable, prices keep rising. So it's a good market here in Erie.
Let's talk about the COVID market, because that was kind of, there had always been kind of this narrative, and other real estate friends that I have were saying, we never really got the value out of the homes that we thought we could have. You take this, you take a house like I have, that might have been worth $100,000 would be $250,000, let's say, in Metro New Jersey, right? In Passaic County or whatever. But something changed with COVID, and the prices of that house that might have been 100 became, some of them 200,
right?
Even in Erie, right?
Right. Yes. It's crazy. The appreciation in the last 5 years was pretty much the same compared to the first 20 years before COVID kind of thing. That rate of appreciation was crazy. So I think a lot of it stems from the the supply during the COVID era was so small, and people still needed housing that you would list something, you'd have 5, 6, 7 offers on it easy, and of course that drove up prices. And if one house in one neighborhood gets that, after 7, 8 offers, what do you think the guy, 2, 3 houses down the street's going to do? You know what I mean? So, and a lot of those prices have kind of just stayed and been consistent since that increase. So
you haven't seen any falling off necessarily.
No, I haven't. I would say it's getting a lot more stable. You're not having your 7, 8 offers on houses really anymore. I mean, any house in a good location, good price, especially like some of these houses in like the county school districts and whatnot, really will sell no problem if you price it right. But I mean, it's been stable nonetheless, and it's just stable. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Excuse me.
It's been stable. The something I noticed, and I was talking to your dad about it, is that all of a sudden I feel like August, September, houses started showing again.
Yes.
I mean, I think we went a good 18, 24 months where you rarely saw a sign in a neighborhood, right? And you can attest to that. Like, how low did inventory go on the MLS, which is the multi-listing service? Is that what you call it?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
For quarter 3 compared to last year, this year is actually up. I think it's like 10.2% or something like that. The inventory is
10%.
Yeah,
that's not that much.
Not that much.
A little bit more,
but it's better than it was. So and closed transactions.
But it had been going down for forever, right?
Right, and then the closed transactions are actually about a 12% from quarter 3 of last year. So
they're up 12%.
Right,
okay, correct. So we're closing more homes.
Yes. So just more inventory available.
But when you think about the first year you started as a full timer, how big was the MLS? Can you remember?
It was a lot of different market back then. I remember you could, that was just almost 10 years ago, but you could take a buyer and say, hey, pick 3 that are on the market. Let's go knock them all out. Pick one to make an offer on, and let's, start lower than what they want. Do inspections, negotiate, all that.
There was
kind of jazz.
Almost 1,000 units, right?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, it was a lot more inventory and a lot less, multiple offer scenarios for sure.
And the time that they stayed on the market was a lot longer, correct?
It was a lot longer compared to now, which I think on average is like 15 days or something like that.
Can you imagine Erie, Pennsylvania with a 15-day market? I mean, again, when you were coming up.
Right. Never would have guessed, but here we are. I mean, I'm glad, but I never would have guessed back then.
So technically, even though things are loosening up slightly, it's still very much a competitive market for a buyer.
Yes, it is. It's still very healthy, very competitive. I mean, like I said, good house, good school district, good location. It's always going to have multiple bids. But across the board, we're still seeing, like I said, on average now it's 15 days on market. You're still very healthy. You're just not seeing your crazy 6, 7, 8 offers at a house at a time kind of thing. There was people in COVID just buying houses sight unseen, which I personally can never do, but it was not uncommon, in that time frame.
Well, you were hearing that houses would go live on Zillow or on MLS, and they were gone in less than 24 hours. They would be pending.
Yeah, it was like back then. It was almost weird if the house was on the market for a day or two and it didn't have an offer. Like, that's how crazy it was. It was kind of like if you got to like day 3 or 4 of like showing it, hey, my client wants to see this.
What's wrong with this?
Yeah,
thing?
Exactly. it's almost like you talk to the agents like, how many offers you got? It's
wow.
Yeah, so it's not quite that bad anymore, but
I
thankfully.
think someone wants to ask a question here. Hey, you're live on Talk Erie with Josh Kitchen and on the Joel Natale Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just a question for you. I have multiple residents, and I am constantly getting phone calls from California, Texas, but mostly California. And I believe it's very one of the reasons why the market's being driven up. You got people with money from Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, shot in a bucket for them to pay $150,000 a house per year versus $10 million for a house there. I mean, it's just unbelievable that they're laughing. They're like, we can buy something in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then rent it out and make a killing off it.
So you're saying this not private? You're not talking about private equity. You're talking about individual buyers.
I'm getting calls from individual buyers. I'm getting letters about once a month for property. Anything that I have that has acreage, they want. I mean, big time. The one house I have that's just 1 acre, I hardly get any calls on that. But the ones that have 4 or 5 plus acres on them, constantly getting calls on them. And I laugh. I'm like, yeah, give me $1 million and I'll sell it. They're like, well, whatever. But also I'd like to talk about Northeast, because I did hear a woman from Northeast is buying lots.
Right.
And we're talking historical buildings. And again, she's paying cash.
Yeah.
So obviously she's got the money from Northern California, and she sees a market that, hey, I can turn around and build these up, rent them, and make money off of it. Yeah. So I don't know. That's my thought.
I'll have him answer offline. Thank you so much. Appreciate the call. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, let's take these one at a time here. The idea that folks that are looking for investment property, again, you're an investor.
Sure.
Are you competing with out-of-town investors?
I would say I am not. I will say out-of-town investors are looking into Erie for investments, just because of the purchase price to what you can rent something for. That ratio is really good for investments.
Okay.
I wouldn't say we see a ton of out-of-town competition. At least I don't personally, but there definitely is some, for sure.
Now, Northeast like the back of your hand because you grew up there.
Born and raised, yep.
This situation with the Northeast native that is obviously a multimillionaire is it's a good and bad situation. What do you think? I mean, she's got the cash to maybe turn around some of these beat up buildings.
Sure. No, I understand. I mean, I'm all for, making Northeast the best it can be. I was from there and whatnot. Transparently, I don't know her intentions or her plans. I don't know her personally or anything like that. But, anytime, anyone says revitalization in Northeast, I'm for it. I think a lot of people are upset about the lack of transparency. That's the only thing. It was what I'm gathering in Northeast. That is. So, but I'm very pro, investing in Northeast for sure. But it is a tight-knit town. People want to know what's going on.
I was going to say, if she was buying in Erie, I don't think people would bat an eye.
I would completely agree with you.
So it just happens to be the Northeast.
Right, and she's bought some, bigger buildings out there. So there's not a ton of commercial stuff out there. So if somebody's buying 1 or 2 commercial buildings at a time, people start to ask questions. So especially if there's demolition involved. So
it's interesting. Just as an aside, Josh, but you think about it. You think about this case here. I can't remember her name immediately, but again, deep roots. Her brother lives here. But also the Mellon situation with what was that? The former Mercyhurst?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I find that fascinating that you have significant, resources kind of pumped in to what is a gorgeous town in the extreme northeast corner of Erie County. Yeah. I think it's just fascinating.
Yeah. It's kind of odd that a little town like Northeast,
go Pickers, right?
That's right, go Pickers. But like I said, anything for investing in Northeast and that revitalization, I guess you'd call it, I'm very pro for. So
okay,
absolutely.
We're gonna take our first break. Josh Kitchen is with us. Great calls. If you have a question for him, he's kind of an expert. You might want to, ask them. 814-679-1080. Back in a bit. Josh Kitchen is with us from Remax, and we're learning a lot about the current conditions of the Erie residential real estate market. And Josh, I want to pinpoint a point that you're making here on the show, and that is buyers buy school districts.
Very true. Yes. I've had people come to me, and it'll be, springtime. Hey, we want to have a house in this school district by the time school starts. It is very, very true that, parents, people, whatever, are buying to be in the school district. It is definitely a big factor in home purchase.
Yeah. So that's where I always felt like, if let's say you wanted to be in General McLean.
Sure.
You can be either in Edinburgh or in Washington Township,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also be in Franklin Township, where if you find a little piece of land and are willing to go, if you have a well that's there and at the septic perks,
Right.
you're golden.
Right. Yeah. No.
Because you're in GM.
In the school district, right? So, yeah, I guess it all depends on what school district you're looking in and what you're trying to do. I mean, hooking up a well and septic and all that installation is not cheap. So
No.
if you could find raw land with public utilities, that's the way to go. But
that's where you're going to see more in Harbor Creek, right?
Right. Yeah. Once you start to get out, that way in General McLean and whatnot area, it gets a little more difficult as far as the public utilities go. But Harbor Creek, it seems to be more common. But finding raw land with public utilities is still no easy, battle in Harbor Creek either. So, same with, Northeast, more so the East County stuff. So,
how many folks are looking for new or near new?
I would say the clientele that I've worked with, it's typically it's younger families. They are honestly, since they kind of have some buyer fatigue with the whole market the last couple of years and the multiple offers, and they're trying to buy in good school districts, so they're okay with putting a little bit of work into some of these properties. Nothing crazy. They're not trying to flip nothing, but paints, flooring, whatever. It doesn't have to be so turnkey, that's the only thing they're going to choose. So they're willing to do the work to get the house to be in the school district they want.
So I was going to say, Mill Creek, Glenwood Estates, Bondi Drive or whatever, where that house was new, let's say in 1975,
Sure.
50 years ago.
Right.
Probably needs a little TLC. But that could be a good buy for a young family, huh?
Yeah,
in the Mill
absolutely.
Creek district.
Yeah, if it's, I always tell people time, money, and energy. If you have the time, money, and energy to spend on the repairs, and you love the location, and it's a smart investment financially, then do it. I always encourage that. I'm pretty upfront. I'll tell people, I'm like, hey, I think you're overpaying for this house if you buy it at this. I think you're getting a good deal if you buy it at this. So I'm very upfront about that. Especially being an investor myself. But parents, clients, consumers, whatever, buyers, they will, roll up their sleeves, do the dirty work to put, time, money, and energy into locations they want to be in for sure.
So if the district, I'm trying to say this delicately.
Sure.
Sometimes you can get a less priced house in the city.
Sure.
And you're dealing with the district at that point,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you have high school kids and they can go to collegiate, that could be an answer,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on,
or whatever.
Yeah, it's really whatever. I mean, even the home prices in Erie have, over the last couple
they've gotten way up.
You see something get listed, and you're like, how are they getting that for that? But I mean, it's happening. I'm happy for them. But as far as school district goes, everybody has different perspectives and whatnot. But what we're seeing is the trend towards the county school districts,
Yes.
and people are investing heavily in those.
Are
more
you
so.
saying maybe again? I'm just throwing
Absolutely.
pitch ball. I'm pitching balls here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are older folks coming back to the city? Where the district is not that important, and you can get a smaller and not have to worry about so much to mow and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, ranch style homes with smaller
Yes.
lots, maybe where school district really isn't a factor. Yes, I've had a handful of clients who, I'll tell them, hey, here's the school district, taxes, blah blah blah, and they're, it doesn't really affect me. I don't have kids going to the school district, whatever it may be, but less maintenance, smaller house, and it's more affordability than buying, something in the county. Yeah, I've seen that across the board for sure.
But you probably have seen some numbers in the city that shock you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
like Frontier,
yeah,
maybe Upper State. And all.
yeah, very desirable areas. Of course, high taxes. But yeah, those houses that pop up in Frontier, they usually don't sit on the market too long. Those are usually gone
So
pretty
it's
quickly.
still very, very
Still, that neck of the
desirable.
woods is very competitive still.
Wow.
For sure.
Wow. And would you say that in some neighborhoods, again, in the really affordable neighborhoods,
Sure.
West Bayfront, East Bayfront,
Sure.
that we're starting to see some gentrification going on?
Yeah, it seems like there's been some investments in those areas.
Have you looked at those as an investor or not so much?
I don't. I have a lot more so on the east side, and then some stuff by Mercyhurst.
Okay. College students and stuff.
Yeah, so I know that area pretty well. It's kind of my bread and butter over
Yeah.
there. But it does seem downtown just in general, you're seeing some investments and whatnot,
Starting to hop,
which is
yeah.
great. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, just same with Northeast. I'm very pro, revitalization and investments. So
it is remarkable to think where those numbers have gone. After the break, I want to talk to you about the rest of the national market because, if you start looking at some of the trades and even some of the news reporting, there's some markets in the South and the West that are absolutely tanking.
Right.
And let me ask you, but I got 30 seconds.
Sure.
I want to ask you about rentals. One of the things that is tight is that a landlord's able to get a lot of money for 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, right?
Sure.
Do you see that softening while you see the houses stay on?
I would say the demand for that is going down a little bit.
It is softening.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, what people are still getting for rent is still, high, historically speaking, but excuse me. But, when you kind of had that real estate bubble a couple years ago, it was, you could list something for rent and you'd have, 12 people one at a time.
Seriously,
Yeah.
for rentals?
Yeah. So it's softened up a little bit, but the rental prices are still pretty high.
Josh Kitchen is with us from Remax. We're talking residential real estate here on the Joel and Natalie Show. News is next. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. We are live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. We're talking real estate, and glad to have with us here in studio Josh Kitchen from the Remax Group, Real Estate Group. And Josh, where's your main headquarters at?
We have two offices, one in Harbor Creek on Buffalo Road next to Stan's Garden Center, and then we have one over on Evanston Ave. So.
Evanston Ave is in the city?
Yeah, right off West 26.
West 26.
Yep.
Great. I think somebody else wants to ask a question. Hi, you're live with Josh and Joel here on Talk Erie.
How you doing, boys?
Good.
Gene.
How are you?
You made me get frustrated a little bit.
Come on now.
Yeah, you said now we got to be factual. Bondi Drive right now, 5532 Bondi Drive, built by Pastori Builders, 1967. 1975, they were done.
Well,
that
okay.
Wasn't even available. It's that there's the homes that people are looking at are old. They're looking at 60 to 75 years old.
Well, and that's one of my jokes is that we went to heck with the joke with mid-century modern around here. I mean, there hasn't been any like big syndicated building since what, Wolf Run? You know, are we talking 30 years now?
Right. Now, the last big subdivision, I would say two of them were one in Mill Creek. One was Love Farms, which took a lot of phases. It was a big farm. And then Southland Village, that was in Mill Creek, and then part of it was in Summit. That was where they built in patio homes. And you know what's hard to believe? I remember Molino had those patio homes. I think they started out at like $139,000. You can't get into one for under $3.
Wow.
Or if it is, it needs a lot of updating.
Yeah.
And the biggest that we're looking at in the energy code is going to go up under the new building code, so to be more stringent come first of the year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that, and this is what's making the older homes more valuable, is that you can find a nice, a brick ranch, maybe 1,600 square feet. We can't build that for under $500,000.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Now, give me that's just a house. Now we got to find a place to put it.
Right, exactly.
and I mean, there's in Harbor Creek, not because Dean's your boy, or our boy, I should say. But Harbor Creek has sewer and water, and they want development. Fairview, they're starting to pump the brakes. They want commercial. They don't want to turn into Mill Creek. That's what they're afraid.
Let me pick up from there. I appreciate it, Gino. Take it easy, man.
All right.
See ya.
See
Bye. Let me pick up with that because Gino makes a great point. And kind of keying off of my point and just other conversations I've had about real estate is that in other markets you do see development and at different price levels, Josh. Sure. You might have $500,000 and they do 10 houses or 20 houses or 30.
Sure.
And then at 300 they do a series. And well, not 150 anymore, but let's say at 2 or 220. I mean, can you imagine how many 220s you could sell of new, even on a quarter acre? Think about
those
it.
would fly. Yeah,
they would fly.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if that might be fantasy land, but it wasn't always fantasy land.
Right.
I mean, you could see that in a Pittsburgh. You could see that in a Charlotte.
Yeah. Just, I mean, with a lot now and cost of materials, and then, the builders got to make their money too. It's just ever since those rise in materials that you just don't really see those prices on anymore, unfortunately. But you were right. They'd sell like hotcakes.
Yeah. So it leads me to this question about the other parts of the country. We're seeing a significant drop in price in places like Austin. Like they went crazy.
Yeah, there was new construction for them for, the last couple of years.
We're seeing this in Florida.
Right.
Florida's becoming where you're actually seeing reductions in price. And I can't imagine if you bought at the peak,
Right.
and now your job is making you move.
Right.
People are taking a hit.
Right. Yeah.
Is it real?
That's scary. I mean, obviously I'm not down in those
Right.
markets, but from, the headlines you read, it's happening to some people. Depending on what part of Florida you're into, the whole insurance thing, some people can't get insurance on their homes. So that's a really big factor as well. So yeah, it's. I don't think luckily we have anything to worry about like that up here.
Yeah, we
as
don't
far
really
as that
have
goes.
that up here. Like,
Terrible snow,
it's
but
it's stable
Yeah.
though.
Right. Yeah. Very stable here. So, cost of everything is going up, insurances and the trades like we were just talking about, it's all going up. But as far as, unless you really bought stupid, I think you're pretty safe for the most part. So.
All right. So let's bring this to, okay, it's Christmas. Sure. You're looking around your house or your apartment. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh my gosh, our rent's going up January 1.
Sure.
When are we going to go buy a house? What would you tell, especially that first-time home buyer?
Sure.
Maybe they have decent income. Maybe they're together making $70,000, $80,000, sure, which is above the median household income. Well, let me stop myself for a second. Can you buy a house on the Erie County median income, which is like what, 62, 56, something like that?
Yeah, you definitely can.
You can?
Yes, you can. So I think it all comes down to being prepared. You got to have your ducks in a row if you do want to buy. You got to get, pre-approved with the lender, see what that looks like for you financially. And then I would say you got to act quickly and thoughtfully. If something pops up that fits your price range criteria.
What is your price range at 60?
I mean, a lot of it just depends on your debt to income ratio. So, I mean.
So the debt thing is the killer, huh?
Yeah, it just depends on what kind of debt you're working with, to be honest with you. But I think what you're supposed to spend on housing, like percentage-wise of your income is 20-25% or something, something like that.
Something like that,
so,
yeah.
But
do you have to dig into all that with your buyers?
I will give them kind of some basic information about that, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, I always encourage them to talk to a qualified lender.
Sure.
They can paint a better picture than I can.
How are they doing? How are the lenders doing?
I mean, the ones I work with seem to be doing all right. So
there's enough business.
Yeah, I know a couple independently owned mortgage brokers that do really well around here. Yeah. So it can be a pretty cutthroat business, but I think that brings out the best in them. If you got competition and whatnot, you're going to strive to be better to give your client a better experience. So I think that in the grand scheme of things that works for clients trying to get a mortgage and want good service while doing so.
If you're a seller. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that, where, again, they've seen the comps.
Sure.
Or they've seen what's happened across, they may not live in Frontier. Sure. They might live in our West Bayfront, which is still, it's an up-and-coming thing, but it ain't Frontier.
Right.
And they're like, I want Frontier money. Right. How do you advise a seller like that?
I think data and just telling the truth goes a long way. So
tell the truth.
I mean, I always tell people, if you don't like the comps I present to you or the value I think your home is, I always tell them there's no pro to me telling you I think your house is worth less than what it actually is. Because that
doesn't help you at all.
Exactly. Because one, I could either offend you, two, I lose the listing, or whatever comes after that.
Right.
So if I'm telling you something and it's lower than what you want, I'm probably telling you the truth.
Yeah.
I could hyperinflate the price to tell you what you want to hear. But, when it's sitting on the market on its second or third month and it hasn't moved and you point the finger back at me, I would like to have been up front with you and not, kind of blown smoke when we first initially met.
So that really, again, those first how many days are the key to a listing?
It's crucial. I don't know.
Many?
I don't know the exact percentage, but it's usually within like the first handful of days you are going to get your best offer for that house. So
you have like 7 days.
Your first impression is huge, is when you're most likely to get your best offer. So the longer it sits, usually, the price goes down the more days on market. So
have you ever had to tell a seller, hey, you need to clean this place up a little bit?
Sure, yeah. I mean, a lot of it depends on their time, money,
the
and energy
cobwebs in the
situation.
basement don't work.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be, kind about it.
I'm sure you are. Yes.
But, it depends, too, on their situation and how much time, money, and energy they want to spend making repairs, cleaning, and all that jazz, too, because some people just physically can't. So
that's true.
You try to line them up with services to help them in that regard, but sometimes money's tight as well. So you just have to be honest, upfront, realistic, and show a little bit of compassion too.
Realtor as social worker. Hey, let's get another phone call. Hi, you're live on with Josh and Joel here.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I don't follow the real estate market that closely because I'm not in the market, right, to sell or buy.
Right.
But I guess my first question was, I know up until at least a year ago, I mean, there were these feeding frenzies every time there was a decent house listed. I mean, 40,000 over ask, no contingencies, no home inspection.
Yeah, no inspection. Right.
Right. So has that calmed down at all? And number two, the interest rates. I don't know what they are right now for a 30-year mortgage, but I can't believe, what that does to your payment. It's got to be tough on the agents, I would think. And I'll just hang up and listen. Those are my two questions.
Thank you, bro. Thanks, bud.
Sure.
What do you think? Is this the feeding frenzy is not there anymore? Is it?
Yeah, it's not as crazy as it used to be over the last couple of years.
But if it's Northwest Mill Creek though, and something decent, don't you compete?
I mean, good house, good location, good price. It's gonna go, and there's gonna be a good amount of people who want it. So, but if you could have a good house and a good location, but if you overprice it, your demand's not gonna be there. It's the same with the other two factors in that scenario. So, I would say yes, it is calmed down. You don't quite see that anymore, but we still do see multiple offer, waive contingencies, cash kind of things, but not as aggressive and crazy as they used to be, I should say.
Yeah.
And as far as interest rates go, they're hovering around low 6.5 right now. So. From what I read, they're supposed to go down, trending down towards into 2026, but you never really know, I guess. But compared to what they used to be, you're 2.5 to 3% a couple of years ago, which was berserk. I guess they would be considered high right now, but historically they're low and they're trending downward.
This is where coming up in a real estate family,
Sure.
Your dad remembers the 12s and the 15s, right?
Oh yeah, he does. And then the market crash, 07, 08, that wasn't fun either. But like I said, historically they're still crazy low at 6.5%.
Yeah, six is kind of a historic norm.
Right.
But it hurts.
Sure.
Because usually, again, you talked about debt ratios. Your buyer probably has a school loan, maybe, or is got little kids. It's funny how a lot of times the houses are, the people that can afford the houses are the older folks. They've already established their credit. They've already established their...
Or refinanced a house they've owned for years, but they refinanced it a couple years ago when it was 2.5%, 3%. And, if you had that, why you don't want to move? So that also is a factor in, the lack of inventory for buyers out there. So
how many of you or your colleagues have dealt with a situation where the older folks are just getting out of the house to go into assisted living or to move to Florida or move to Arizona? That's one way where the market can have a little bit of churn, right?
Sure. Yeah. We're starting to see that, at least, me and my team are.
Yeah.
A lot of those scenarios are starting to pop up a little more often. But yeah, they go into homes or wherever, relocate wherever it may be. And, most of the time they, need services like clean outs or, contractors, all that things. But that is an avenue for more buyers, for options for house purchases for sure. So
someone's writing, don't forget that 12% on the mortgage, you could buy something really nice for $50K. Again, that's a million years ago, though. You're not talking about Erie of
not a lot
2025.
Of 50K properties out there right now.
They used to be around.
Oh yeah. Even when I first started, like I said, and that was only 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
There, it wasn't all uncommon, but not a ton of 50K houses everywhere, but you see some here and there.
Let me ask you about real estate as a career.
Sure.
Because it seems like for a while there was a lot of realtors, a lot of and again, I mean no disrespect, but there's a lot of part-timers.
Sure.
Like this was just a side gig or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that inventory tightness had to have kind of winnowed out the number of agents, or did it?
Yeah, I would say there's kind of been a drop off. Like I said, earlier in the show, I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's like 80% of the realtors, quit in year 2.
Wow.
It is a really tough business, but there was an influx of agents over the last couple of years who, you see these houses go for what prices they are, and I guess the getting into the business isn't, an excruciating process, a couple months, weeks, whatever of, licensing and all that. And then you're kind of on your own to a certain degree, but there was a ton of agents, and it can be difficult working with inexperienced agents, especially if you have such a high influx of them, training them, getting the quality training they need can be challenging for brokerages.
Yeah.
So it's very crucial on which brokerage you choose and which training you're going to get. But I would say to consumers, if your, cousin just got their license a week ago and, you're trusting them with your largest investment, maybe think twice kind of deal. But we've kind of seen the more part-time agents fizzle out to a certain degree.
Is that right?
So,
yeah. So the people that their whole livelihood depends on it.
Right.
Makes a lot more
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah.
So 2026, Erie market, any crystal ball?
I think it'll be a very strong year. Springtime is usually when we get, all the listings, or a big surge of the listings, I should say. With that combined with, interest rates supposedly going to drop and still being historically low, I think we're in for a strong spring and summer. Usually wintertime always gets a little slow because people don't want to move in the snow. Yeah. So your options are limited, and people don't want to sell in the snow either. So I think it'll be very strong. Advice would be to know a good agent who can kind of coordinate, what that process looks like for you. Same with a good mortgage lender. Let them do their job and choose wisely kind of thing. So. And
buyers... Get a handle on your credit, huh?
Yes, I mean, like I said, first step would I would say talk to an agent and or a mortgage lender to see what you're comfortable with spending, what your your finances look like for your availability to buy a house. That would be step number one. It just kind of paints a picture of what you should be looking at as far as a house goes. So if you're only pre-approved for $200 and you're looking at $400,000 house, doesn't make very much sense. So it will help. Kind of tighten your criteria in the house search once you get that nailed down. So.
And any builders out there that want to build $250,000 ranch homes for that 55 plus demographic, Josh will sell them.
That's right.
Probably sell all of them
quickly. Yes.
Isn't that something? Yeah. I mean, like you can see it. Mm-hmm. But it's not happening because it probably is a fantasy that it could happen that way.
Yeah, well, like example, is Harbor Ridge, that neighborhood. They had all those those condos kind of built up there, and that's a newer subdivision. And years ago when because the condos are a little bit older compared to some of the single family homes they built out there. But you couldn't give those away, 9-10 years ago. They would sit on the market for months, and now. Our team sold one recently that had multiple offers, and it went over $300,000.
The condo?
Yes. So.
Holy moly!
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy. So,
we're scratching our heads here.
So I mean, good for the seller, I guess.
And I hope to see that the city will necessarily go through a renaissance, and maybe we just need to start tearing some of the really awful stuff down, and building in its place. I
agree. I think some newer buildings, and I think pride of ownership goes a really long way with folks.
Yeah.
You buy a house, it's yours. People, especially the young crowd that I've dealt with, they that is. It's their home. They want to do everything, invest in it. They'll spend their weekends, making it look nice, repairing things. It's pride of ownership, I think, is huge and often overlooked, but just my experience.
I like that. We're going to leave it there. Yeah. Josh Kitchen, Remax. What's a great way to get a hold of you?
Call or text anytime, 814-823-3453, or send me an email, Josh Kitchen.
Say it one more time,
814-823-3453.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
Because I tell you what, this is one of those subjects everybody's interested in.
It affects everyone.
Yes. The home affects everyone.
That's right.
So, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.